So with Survivor Series being done and over with, tonight was the post Survivor Series episode of SmackDown. It was announced earlier tonight within this show that there was three men that suffered injuries at Survivor Series. Jimmy Uso broke his toe. Big Bronson Reed, he broke his foot in that fall, which looked nasty. And the infamous Tongaloa is going to be out with a torn bicep. So all these three guys, they're out indefinitely. We don't know when they're going to come back, which is such a shame because these guys, especially Jimmy and Bronson, those guys were among like the MVPs of that Survivor Series War Games match. So obviously just wishing those guys well, wishing all three of them well to see that when they eventually return. But tonight's SmackDown, we started off, we heard that Cody Rhodes was going to kick off tonight's episode of SmackDown. Cody Rhodes kicks off tonight's episode of SmackDown. They're in Minnesota. So with them being in Minnesota, they had Chad Gable, who's from Minnesota, come out and interrupt Cody Rhodes and essentially cut the Cody Rhodes is a bad friend promo. Chad Gable says that, you know, what he did to Kevin Owens, what Cody Rhodes did to Kevin Owens by teaming up with Roman Reigns, he wouldn't do. That just proves that Cody Rhodes is a bad friend. And then Cody Rhodes comes back, and there was a line here which made me chuckle a little bit because Cody Rhodes mentioned the fact of, you know, well, listen, you gotta take your shortcomings, and how you deal with them is what makes you a man. And he brought up Shorty G, and then he brought up the fact that, you know, Cody was Stardust or whatever. So tonight's main event, it was gonna be Shorty G against Stardust, which is kind of crazy to think about. Shorty G against Stardust in a SmackDown main event. You never would have thought, but whatever. Tonight we had Cody Rhodes and Chad Gable tear it up in the main event, and I'll get to that in a little bit. We had some fire beginning women's matches. One was to determine who would advance in the Women's United States Championship tournament. That ended up being Tiffany Stratton. She was the hometown favorite here. She picked up the win. I don't know if she's gonna win the tournament. She's probably not. It would be kind of foolish if she won the tournament and was still the women's Money in the Bank holder. So I don't foresee that happening at all. And then Bianca Belair and Piper Niven had a fantastic match. I'm telling you, man, Bianca Belair, don't sleep on Bianca Belair, man. She's phenomenal in the ring. And we also got Shinsuke Nakamura. We got sort of a vignette on Shinsuke Nakamura. He was promoted to be here in the arena. Shinsuke Nakamura comes out. One thing I will say about Shinsuke Nakamura, his presentation is amazing, right? Because he comes out, I think he's wearing like some sort of mask. You see the silhouette of Shinsuke Nakamura walking out. You see like the sun right behind him, and it's a pretty dope presentation, right? Before he even gets to say anything, LA Knight comes out and, you know, declares that he wants a rematch, right? He wants the chance to win back his United States Championship. He tells Shinsuke Nakamura what does he think of his challenge. Shinsuke Nakamura doesn't say anything. LA Knight essentially goes and tries to get in the ring to sort of throw hands with Shinsuke. This brings out Andrade. Andrade says he has unfinished business with Shinsuke Nakamura. And before he gets into the ring, he gets jumped by Tama Tonga, Jacob Fatu, and Solo Sikoa. They come out and they attack both of these guys, LA Knight and Andrade. Shinsuke Nakamura is still standing. He pulls out sort of the poison and kind of just, you know, flexes it in front of Jacob Fatu to kind of, you know, intimidate them. And Solo Sikoa essentially tells Jacob Fatu not to worry about Shinsuke, you know, that he's kind of off limits, I guess. You know, and personally, if it was up to me, I would love to see a Jacob Fatu Shinsuke Nakamura match with Jacob Fatu picking up the W and becoming United States champion. I think that would be great, but whatever. Shinsuke Nakamura, he left the ring. Solo Sikoa then cut one of his most passionate promos. He essentially says that he's tired of being looked at as a joke, that everybody is going to acknowledge him, that he's still the tribal chief. Just because he lost two of his soldiers at War Games doesn't mean that the bloodline is going to be acknowledged, you know, the whole shebang and whatnot. So essentially, you know, if you kind of look at where these things are heading, it's gonna take us to an eventual Roman solo match for the Ula Fala. Now, Roman Reigns isn't scheduled. I think he isn't scheduled for the remainder of the month of December. So that includes the Saturday night's main event. So my question is, do we get this match at that first episode of Raw on Netflix? Or do we get this match at the second Saturday night's main event, or do we get this match at the Royal Rumble? Whenever the case is, I think at this point we have to see The Rock come back within that match, but I may be just sort of getting too ahead of myself. But I think this is the direction that they're going to end up going in with the story of the Ulafala, Roman and Solo. And also tonight we were planned sort of a Kevin Owens and Michael Cole sit down, within the studio. But Kevin Owens put out a video on Twitter where he essentially, made the case that, I come to these events every single time and I get turned away. Security tells me to get out of here, that I'm not welcomed. So he tells Michael Cole that if he wants this interview, he's going to have to go outside and essentially interview him in his car. So Michael Cole, after this, he comes out, he sits down with Kevin Owens. They both do the sort of impromptu interview. And, Michael Cole states the case for why Kevin Owens is sort of in the wrong. And Kevin Owens, obviously, if you've heard one Kevin Owens promo by this point, you've heard kind of where he's coming from, why he thinks Cody Rhodes is such a bad person, why he doesn't, isn't his friend anymore. And one thing that was said throughout this interview, which I kind of took note and I kind of sort of acknowledge that this is going to be the subtle direction that they're going to take this story, is, the mention of Sami Zayn was brought up. His name was brought up. And Kevin Owens said something to the fact that, when we cross that bridge, I'll deal with it, right? Like, to that effect. So what I'm kind of thinking is, I think in the distant future, possibly WrestleMania 41, this is the eventual direction that they're going in, right? Because think about it. It would make no sense if Kevin Owens has such an issue with Cody Rhodes teaming up with Roman Reigns, but doesn't have an issue with Sami Zayn, because Sami Zayn is doing the exact same thing. So I'm grateful that they acknowledge this, and I fully predict that this is probably going to be a WrestleMania match within the next year, WrestleMania 41. And one thing I also liked about this show tonight was the heel turn of DIY. So in the back early on the show, it's revealed that the Street Profits, who had a match with the Motor City Machine Guns, they got attacked sort of in mystery, so nobody knows who it is. But Johnny Gargano offers to take the place of the Street Profits tonight for the Tag Team Championship match against the Street Profits. And it looks like DIY was having their issues in this match, but it turns out that it was all a ruse. Johnny Gargano ends up delivering a low blow. The Motor City Machine Guns are both in shock. They trusted Johnny Gargano. And this eventually leads to Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, DIY, picking up the W. And they are the new tag team champions over on SmackDown. I think it's great. I think DIY needed something. I think this is a good direction to head in. It certainly builds interest now within, their characters and whatnot. One thing that was mentioned before I get to the main event was the fact that since Raw on Netflix is so close now, that Raw and SmackDown are going to have some sort of reshuffling to their rosters, right? This is what was mentioned. This is the verbiage that was used, reshuffling. So that could mean a plethora of things. We saw Chad Gable, obviously. One thing that I noted was Chad Gable, is he going to move over now to SmackDown, right? We also saw Gunther in the back, and some people were saying, what if they switch the champions, right? What if Cody goes over to Raw, and what if Gunther comes over to SmackDown? Now, there was a report a couple weeks ago that Cody Rhodes was, highly requested by Netflix officials to be on Raw. So is that a possibility? Is that Cody Rhodes, does he switch over to Raw and Gunther over to SmackDown? I don't know if that's going to be something that is going to be brought up, because Gunther, people already view him as a secondary champ. So I think if you switch him over to SmackDown, I think people will view him even more as a secondary champ if this were to happen. But like I said, we still don't know. This is sort of still a work in progress, so we'll kind of see how everything is going. But we ended up with the main event here tonight, which was Cody Rhodes against Chad Gable. This was a fantastic match. Obviously, these two guys are well-rounded athletes, right? These two guys, it's going to be impossible for these guys to put up a stinker. The main sort of talking point within this match was the ankle of Cody Rhodes. So Cody Rhodes has a bad ankle ever since Bash in Berlin, so that was sort of the story of this match. And Cody Rhodes picks up the W, after Chad Gable was sort of on the offensive for most of this match. And once he wins, out comes Kevin Owens, attacks the ankle, and this ends off in a brawl. Before Kevin Owens came out, I kind of wondered to myself, and I told myself, I wonder if this ankle thing is going to be an issue within that Saturday night's main event match between these two guys. And lo and behold, Kevin Owens did come out, and he, went after this ankle, and that's how we went off the show with these two guys brawling out. This is going to be my hot take here, and I know it's not going to happen, but if it was up to me, I would have Kevin Owens go over. I would have Kevin Owens win the championship, because I know that the plan is probably going to be Randy Orton returns and helps Cody Rhodes retain his title. But how awesome would it be if Kevin Owens were to actually win the title, and you can have Cody win the title back at the Royal Rumble or whatever. Build some suspense within the SmackDown roster, right? But that is all from me, guys. What did you think of SmackDown? Let me know your comments down below. Let me know your thoughts, and until next time, I will see y'all later.